What's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. And how are you?
I'm good.
So I know this police officer, and I actually met him on TikTok, and then he started messaging me, and I'm like, I don't talk on TikTok. Like, if you want to be friends, like, I'll invite you to my Facebook group. We could talk on Facebook. And it's been like a year and a half or something. And so last week, he had sent me a picture because his patrol unit was stranded in some quicksand. And I was like, that's like one of a lot of childhood fears is thinking that one day you're going to get sucked up by quicksand. And I asked if there was, because I could see he's around a neighborhood. And I was like, do any of those houses have like a spare piece of plywood? You could just like shove it underneath your back tires. He said he tried everything. And now he was just waiting for his squad to come and make fun of him and to yank him out. And then he's like, I'm such an idiot. And I let that one pass. And we were talking later that day, and then he was just kind of like recapping me on what had happened and how he had gotten out. And I think that's what he was doing. I'm saying that because he sent me a video message. And in his message, and I was like, hey, next time you send me a video, you might want to make sure that your finger isn't covering the microphone. And then evidently he re-listened to his video, and he's like, oh shit, I'm such a stupid idiot. And I was like, that's the second time that you did that. And he was like, did what? And I was like, the whole negative self-talk, calling yourself an idiot. I was like, it's very unbecoming of you. And he's a type of person that obviously has his notifications on. So like if he messages me, I don't see it for a couple hours, I'll message him, and then he messages me back right away. Like you can see that it's read right away. And he took a while to respond to me, so I could tell that he was thinking about it. And there's so much science behind negative self-talk and how it actually impacts our mind and our body.
I think it's we all find ourselves having that negative self-talk and it's being intent with not doing it, because all it is it creates this downward spiral for us to be able to just rationalize or to make it okay for you to feel less than. And you should never feel less than about yourself. Like, you can't control other people's outlook on you or their response to you, but you can control your own response to yourself.
So let me talk about this for a second. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the truth and then what you tell yourself repeatedly. And you can look this up yourself. There are so many studies that show that when you repeat negative thoughts, it creates this really strong neural pathway that reinforces self-doubt and fear and failure. And so if you're a first responder or not, this can have such a massive impact on your confidence, your reaction time, and even your long-term mental health.
I just thought about this and it correlates somewhat into what we're talking about. And like, I've gone to scenes, I've gone to instances where I show up, say it's a shooting or a stabbing or like a high kind of stress environment. I walk in and I'm just calm, cool, and I'm just looking at everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I see everyone. You see the ones that are ramped up specifically, and they're like, well, I gotta do this, and their eyes are big, and their response is so high strung. And then I walk in, and I just go over and I talk to them individually, and I, like, my demeanor calms that situation down in response to this, because then I hear my guys say, oh, well, I'm stupid for doing that. It's that it goes down that route of that negative self-talk. And I go, no, you're not stupid for doing anything. Like, this is what you know. This is how you did it. And then we work through that problem. And I think it's important to come into instances, whether it's high stress or not, and be that calm in the storm.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand this, but when it comes to things on a chemical level, if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, it's going to put your body in this sort of state of stress. And then when that happens, you're going to have a higher level of cortisol. So that in and of itself is creating this negative spiral of increased stress. And so it's very important for us to make sure that we understand the physical impact of this, because if you have an elevated cortisol, this can contribute to things like high blood pressure, weight gain, fatigue. You can even get heart disease. And so when you think about some of the leading contributing factors that a lot of first responders face medically, this could have a lot to do with that.
Yeah, having that response, your own negative self-talk and that own negative response to yourself, like you're creating an environment which is unhealthy. You need to find a balance with and you don't have to exude positivity all the time. You just have to not talk down about yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of people also don't realize that if you have negative self-talk going on, this can impair your decision making and even your performance. So let's say that you're of the type that says, I always screw things up. And you do that right before a high pressure call. This could increase your hesitation and even lower your confidence. And this matters because if you have self-doubt on the job, then it can slow down your reaction time. It can decrease your efficiency, and it can even increase mistakes.
Yeah, and that's where it's that if you keep going down that downward spiral, that you're not going to make decisions. You're not going to be able to make those clear decisions when you're the first on scene. You're the one having to direct everything. You're trying to pass off this information. You're trying to make the right decisions. If you're not sure on what you're doing and you keep thinking, oh, well, I'm going to make a mistake. You're going to make mistakes. But it's being able to recover from those mistakes.
Yeah, it can also lead to mental exhaustion and burnout. And I'm not nitpicking on this particular officer because this is a behavior trait that I don't have. And I want to make sure that I can help support anybody that I ever come into contact with who does have this. So, and he's also top of mind since this incident just took place. But that very next day, we were messaging, and I want to explain the importance of understanding that constant negative self-talk can drain your mental energy, and it can lead to really quick burnout and even emotional exhaustion. Because that very next day, he said good morning, I said good morning, and it was already like 6 a.m. our time, which means that my day is already 12 hours in or something like that. And I had asked him how his morning was going, and he was telling me, I think he'd gone to church with his daughter the night before. And then he said, it's not nearly as productive as your day has already been. He also lives in California. So like it's 6 a.m. in the morning. Like nobody would expect you to have such a productive day come 6 in the morning. However, your negative narrative is making you feel like you need to compare your behavior to my behavior. And all that's doing is going to make you feel like you're already mentally exhausted by not living up to the expectations that you're setting for yourself, which are highly inappropriate because we don't do the same thing.
Yeah, having an expectation for yourself, you have to make it realistic and make it align with who you are and what you do, because you can't compare your own life to someone else's, especially when it's in different types of works and different kind of demeanors when it comes to it.
Yeah, and our brain is such a special thing. And Clint, you know how interested I am in anything neurologically related. However, I want you to think of the fact that our subconscious, all of those like the radio me, those thoughts that you have, the voice that you hear that's talking inside of your head, that is not you. And that is not the truth most of the time. And so what happens is when we're repeating phrases like, I'm not strong enough, I can't handle this, what happens is you're rewiring your brain to believe that those statements are true. And this matters because over time, it can lead to things like chronic anxiety, depression. You can get CPTSD symptoms from this because your brain doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, being able to get out of that monkey brain, that radio mind it's work. It takes a lot of work to be able to do that, but you want to support yourself. Like you're your number one hero in anyone's book. Like no one else is going to be able to support you to the level that you can support yourself.
Yeah. And as you listen to this, something really interesting that you could do is you could just Google this and say, how does negative self-talk link to my immune system? And what you'll find is that when you have negative self-talk, it can weaken your immune responses. And this can make you more susceptible to things like getting sick or being super tired all of the time. That can also lead to things like calling in sick all of the time, even slower recovery. You could be increased in terms of vulnerability when you're out there in the field. And so it has such a big impact on us. And a lot of people just brush it off like it's no big deal.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the big picture with everything. Like we correlate all these illnesses or whatever else it could be to just, oh, well, I caught something. And you could have, or what's the deeper problem when it comes to it?
Yeah. And I think a great tool, a great practice for this is to, anytime that negative self-talk happens, first of all, let that be a cue. Let a little bell go off in your head, like I'm talking shit about myself again. And then go back and then say the thing that you just said about yourself. Like let's say it's, I can't handle this. Okay. So I can't handle this. And then stop and think about it. Is that true? Is that really true? You're about to go into a situation to do something. Chances are you might have done something very similar before. Chances are you know that you're going to have to handle this anyways and you're going to be done with it eventually. So that in and of itself would be incorrect. And when we ask ourselves, like, is this statement that my mind is just wandering into, is it true? Well, it's probably not. And then allow yourself to reframe it. Well, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this. Not that I can't handle this.
Also, I think it's important to run like a diagnostic on your own internal system on a regular basis. It's like hooking up a computer to your vehicle and saying, hey, how's your health? How is everything going today?
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.